Hello and welcome to your weekly smorgasbord of tidbits and treats from the world of electric cars, brought to you by the team at electrifying.com. This week we'll be talking about posh MGs, a hot Mokka, and the fact that we still don't know which cars will qualify for the electric car grant.
And the truth is that neither does the British government, I don't think.
Very true. And we'll also be answering your electric car questions, dipping into the postbag to find out your views on last week's episode. Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I'm Ginny.
I'm Vicky.
And I think we should kick off it by saying thank you to Jeff Johnson, who emailed us with this week's intro, the smorgasbord of tidbits and treats. Please do keep them coming because it saves us a job in the week and we really like them. Vicky, how's your week?
Good, busy, lots of cars. We had that very busy shoot recently, didn't we, with the triple test of affordable electric cars, which we'll talk about a bit more. And then I've been very busy driving my desk for electrifying.com, updating lots of reviews, all of that stuff, just keeping it going. So yeah, how about you?
I know, just busy. So I've been out looking at a couple of new cars this week. Both Nicola and I went to see them. 2 new MGs. Not MGs as we know it, because they are MGIMs, which Nicola thought was a new badge for MG. And I had to say, no, it's not. It's not a new badge. It's the actual IM badge because it has these kind of like little circles and some lines on the front of the car. It looks a bit like the kind of logo you might get on like an operating system for your computer.
Yes.
Yes. So the IM bit stands for Intelligence in Motion. And this is a brand owned by Engine's parent company in China. It's sold as a standalone brand in China, and it is a more upmarket premium brand. They've been very much designed, these two cars, to take on the Model 3 and the Model Y. So the Model 3 rival is called the IM5. The Model Y rival is the IM6. And they are priced very similar. Certainly the IM5, although curiously the IM6 is a little bit more expensive than the Model Y, but we don't know any of the monthlies on that yet because we haven't had residual values. But they're definitely like going more at market, and they're loaded with kit and lots of, all the latest ADAS equipment. So the car will do a lot of the stuff for you the way a Tesla will do. And the performance versions are absolutely ridiculously quick, probably too quick in my opinion. But this brand is badged as IM in China, and here they will be badged as MGIM and will be sold through MG dealers. So, you've had a look at them as well. What do you reckon?
I'm really intrigued by these cars. So I've not driven them, but I've had a good look at all the specs and stuff, and I've read your reviews and this kind of thing, and I just find it very intriguing. So they charge at over 350 kilowatts, which I'm very impressed by, and also some of the semi-autonomous stuff. And I mean, hands up here, I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to the semi-autonomous. I'm well aware of it all, and I sort of but I personally, and it is personal preference, I just don't really like it. I don't even really like adaptive cruise control, if I'm honest. Don't mind it in certain situations. Not really, no. In average speed cameras and stuff, I'll use it occasionally. I just prefer driving the car. Otherwise, I personally find that I'm just sort of waiting for the car to do something I'm not expecting it to do. And so I end up more on edge than if I just drive it myself. But I was quite intrigued to, as I'll say it again, it's my personal preference in that regard. Some of the systems are really good these days. But
Vicky, do you have trouble handing over control, Vicky?
I definitely have. Definitely, yeah. I do like to be in charge. That's true. Yeah, it's true. And also, I find driving relaxing. I find it quite meditative and enjoyable, and I enjoy that sense of being in control. So yes, I think that was part of it. Definitely a reflection on me more than the technology these days. But this whole idea that so apparently the IMs, right? They've got this system whereby they will kind of retrace their tire tracks, so up to 100 meters, right? So you can hit a button and it will reverse out of a space, or even like a road or something in exactly the fashion that you drove in, which I find quite interesting.
There's some quite clever stuff on it. There's some other bits on it that I'm not really sure what they're there for. But there's 4 different variants of park assist, which are, I think, clever. So there's this, the normal, it'll find your parking bay and reverse into it for you. Yeah. It will, how sometimes in car parks or, your local supermarket car park, the area that you pull out onto is really narrow, really, really narrow. And these are big, long cars. It will also, you can also pull it out. So you can, you know, if it's a tight parking space, it will come out automatically, or you can be in it and it will just do that forward maneuver for you as well. It will do a parallel park, and then it will do this clever thing where, as you said, it remembers like the last 100 meters. So say you get stuck down a one-way street, or, you know, you're stuck in a traffic jam and you need to get back out, it will remember and it will do that for you. So that was clever. But it also does something called the crab, which is where it kind of shuffles along sideways, which I was trying to think of a use case for the crab. And I think the new Denza does that as well. You know, this kind of sub brand
Yeah.
from BYD, which again is like their sort of like more upmarket brand than BYD. That does it. And I don't know, I'm really intrigued that why China particularly needs this maneuver of cars that will crab. You know, if you think
I
of,
don't
I don't
know.
know.
Is it
Don't
to do
know.
with city spaces and really kind of tight air? I don't really know.
I
I find it very odd. The whole, it's going to ruin your tires, isn't it? Surely this is kind of
can't
it
be
as
good
well.
for good for them. Can't be good for them.
Anyway, we'll
Um,
see.
anyway, I did drive them both, and I thought the IM5, I thought it drives really nicely. It impressed me. I thought it was a great car. I actually, it's one of those cars that looks vaguely familiar.
Mhm.
And Nicola was saying she could see Aston Martin DBX in it, and I think you can probably
Yeah.
see that they were going for Tesla as well. So it's been designed with a purpose. So I really like the IM5 actually, and I'm looking forward because there's an entry level battery on that, a smaller LFP battery, which I think will be really interesting to see what that's like. They haven't got any of those on the fleet yet, but we'll get one of those in. But the IM6 for me suffers from the same thing that you get with the C Line 7 and the BYD Seal, or the Model Y with the Model 3, which is you just feel the extra bulk and the weight, and it just doesn't drive as nicely. So you've got that
Mm.
price to pay for practicality. But they're really interesting. And I think, you know, you've got to applaud MG's ambition, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
standing
Absolutely.
still.
I'm really interested to see how they do. Actually, I wonder how people are going to respond to them, because I'm quite interested. I think people might quite like
Mm.
these cars, but it's especially because of, like, you know, the charging speeds and the range, and you know they do seem to be quite decent in terms of what they're offering. I think they're quite tempting, so I will be
Yeah.
interested to see how people respond to them.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Vic, about the charging speeds? Because you and I both know that charging speed is yeah, amazing. And what was it? You know, I can't remember. It's like 10 to 8% was something like 17 minutes, or it'll
the
add
claimed
100 and
charging speed, you mean, Ginny? The
exactly
claimed.
claim. But because we know, and everybody knows, that that's a theoretical charging speed, the chances of finding anywhere that is, you know, capable at the moment of delivering that level of charge is slim to
Yeah.
zero. So a lot of these cars, it's tech that is okay, it's future proofed, and you know we know that technology is moving at a faster pace, and we know that those kind of, you know, that much faster charging will be coming. But I don't know. It feels a bit disingenuous to me that you know,
Mm.
we talk about these great charging speeds, knowing that, you know, people really have got no chance of getting it unless you pull up at a very specific charger and there's nobody else there and the car's at the right temperature and the charger is, you know, is all optimally working. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit of it's more of it's a wider issue with the language and education surrounding electric
Mm.
cars, isn't it? It's the fact that you and I know this, and I suspect most people who have bought an electric car and spent time with it are well aware of it as well. And I think it's, again, it's the language, it's the fact that manufacturers need to be telling people that this is a, you know, an ideal scenario rather than what you're going to experience every time, even on a charger that's fully functioning. I mean, the disparity that you can get between, you know, when you have a really good day of charging and a really bad day of charging can be absolutely huge. And I include Tesla superchargers and every form of you know, rapid charger out there in that. So it really does vary depending on who else is using it, how good the charger is, the, you know, condition of the battery, the how much driving you've done. There's so many variables. It's one of the difficulties, I think, when you're talking to somebody who's coming to EVs for the first time, and it's really intimidating when you sort of say, well, you know, it can charge at 350 kilowatts, and now there are actually quite a lot of 350 kilowatt chargers out there, but in reality, you may only see 200 kilowatts. It's that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's that. How long
yeah,
is a piece of string? So at the end of the day,
yeah.
manufacturers need to give some kind of, it can charge at this. but perhaps it's up to us really, and what we're trying to do is educate people anyway, isn't it? And just sort of get the word out there that you can't really expect that on a routine basis.
Yeah, we do try that. I mean, I know I've caveated that in a lot of reviews and stuff recently, that we'll say, of course, this really depends on a lot of factors whether you'll get that. And to be fair to MGIM, they do say that as well. They were quite clear about the fact that, you know, you will need to be at a charger that can deliver at that speed. But we know the disparity that's out there. I mean, I tried to charge this morning. I was on a 50 kilowatt charger. I was getting like 19 kilowatts.
Oh
And
dear,
my
that's
car
not
was
good, is
empty.
it?
The car was empty, and it's not cold. It's like,
Yeah, I know. It's very frustrating,
anyway,
isn't it? But
it
maybe
is. It is.
manufacturers should be publishing charging curves. I know that might be a slightly more advanced kind of information than many people want, but I think increasingly as people become aware, I would certainly love for manufacturers to make that more widely available. So, you know, something to think
Yeah.
about, isn't it?
Oh, that's a good one. Let us know in the comments below. Charging curves. Would you like to see the charging curves for particular cars? Some manufacturers are quite open about that. Other manufacturers will not talk about charging curves at all. They just won't. I think Kia and Hyundai, for example, are a brand that do not talk about charging curves. Even if you ask the question, they won't talk about that with you. So it's quite interesting. So let us know. You can email us podcast@electrifying.com or drop us a comment. Would you like more information now about your EV? Would you like to know about the charging curve of a car? Is that something you want to know about before you decide to buy it? It'd be good to know what you think. Right, what else is going on? Go on, Vicky. Any news on the
Right, we've got
grants?
hot. Well, as I said. So where are we with the electric car grants? Well, basically, we don't know a lot more than we did before, do we? So we know there are two bands. We know that it's going to be based on the environmental impact of the manufacturing of the car, including the country it's developed in and this kind of thing, or built in, I should say. It's all a bit up in the air, and it's a bit frustrating that all of this has been announced and we're still not really sure. And as I said, I'm not sure the government's quite sure who is actually eligible for what. So slightly frustrating. And as you said, you know, you were even talking to people quite high up in Renault just yesterday, and they're still not sure either, even if they're eligible for the top level, the £3,750, you know, and that's built in France. So you would think that would definitely be eligible, but nobody's sure. Nobody knows.
No, but actually,
So
nobody knows. And
no.
the thing that I think astonishes me is that the government put this out there without having a list, because they know the criteria, right? So they've set it. So
Yeah,
they
of course.
must have a rough idea of, and to have done the figure for that amount of money that they've allocated, they must know roughly how many
Have they
cars and
not
what
got?
they're going to be
They
eligible
need your
for.
contacts list, Ginny. Surely they must have your contacts list with all of your. With you know, they need. Surely the government knows the number for SMMT, right? That they could call them and ask this stuff.
I just thought it'd be really quite easy. I mean, just give me or Vic a call. Listen, if
Yeah.
the government's listening, if you're a bit if you're stuck on this next time you're setting policy, we can help you. We know some people.
Yeah, we've got all the contacts. We know where stuff's built. It's fine. We can inform you. It's
It's
if you
not
seem
going to be
short on
hard.
info, it's
But the
strange,
thing
isn't it? It seems really odd.
strange. I think the thing that has become clearer to me throughout the course of the week is that it doesn't even help necessarily if, you know, you're thinking, well, manufacturers are doing the right thing and they're keeping their supply chains in Europe and they're trying to support battery production in Europe, because I think we're in this situation where it looks like, and again, this is not confirmed, it looks like batteries that are sourced and built in Poland wouldn't meet the environmental criteria. And I think it's split between, from memory, 70% of the figure goes on where the battery is produced and 30% where the car itself is manufactured. And that's because Poland is transitioning from a quite, you know, coal heavy grid to a greener grid, but they're not there yet. And actually, if you look away from China, Poland is not only the largest battery manufacturer in Europe, but it's second globally to China. So that seems really unfair for all of those manufacturers who are trying to keep their supply chains in Europe. I'm very confused.
Yeah, I'm confused too. I think a lot of people are very confused, and it's frustrating because I think at the heart of it, I'm very pleased that the grant is here,
Yeah.
and I'm also actually very pleased that the government is trying to shine a spotlight on the actual, you know, the environmental credentials of electric cars and where they're produced and all
Agreed.
that kind of thing. I think that's the correct thing to do, but the problem is I don't think that you can be implying legislation like this. I don't think you can be doing this without initially figuring out who's affected, who's eligible, who's not. The idea of launching this whole scheme without actually knowing, which is exactly what's happened, seems a bit mad. And as you and I were talking about earlier, I do wonder if ultimately, I suppose partly because we're all a bit frustrated with how it's been rolled out and the uncertainty of it, but we do wonder if isn't there maybe a better way of doing it? Would it maybe be better for everybody to do an interest-free loan like they do in Scotland that could apply to used EVs as well as new EVs, and therefore maybe make it, electric cars more affordable and attainable to people who might be looking at, a 15 or 20 grand EV rather than a brand new £30,000 one or a 30. Do you know what I mean? I would just wonder if that wouldn't be a bit more inclusive and a bit better for the market and manufacturers as a whole. So that, I don't know, but it is frustrating.
Yeah, we've been campaigning for a while for them to introduce that interest-free loan the way they have in Scotland, because that's great, because it's not just it's on an electric car, electric motorbikes, electric vans. There's a pot of money. It resets every year. When it's gone, but it's a really clever scheme. And it did used to be open to new and used, and then the Scottish Government then limited it to just used, I think, from memory. But something like that, I think you're absolutely, I mean, that would for me have been a much more useful use of it. But anyway, let's move on to some comments on that, because as tripping with a damage bet. I really don't know how to say your YouTube name. I'm sorry, tripping, but hi. Tripping said you didn't mention the Mokkas subsidy on the Leap Motors range in the last podcast, identical to the government scheme but available now. And that leads us nicely into the mock grants that have come on from other brands. So we didn't mention it because it hadn't actually been announced when we recorded the podcast on Thursday. That dropped sort of overnight Thursday and into Friday. But yeah, the Chinese manufacturers, Vicky, have just gone for it, haven't they? And they're doing their own electric car grants. So they've been followed by Aura, and they've been followed by MG, and I suspect that they won't be the last.
Yes, exactly. So we've had Graham Stevenson 410. He said government should cancel road tax on EVs instead of saying there's a £3,500 discount that no one can work out. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. It's true. I mean, things like that actually have an impact on more people, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's tricky. I mean, we still don't know what's going on with the premium car grant, do we, as well? So there's that. There's still that uncertainty to everything too.
Yeah, premium car tax, absolutely. Christopher Stubbs said, somebody in the government must have a list of the cars that qualify for the grants. Apparently that was a quote that I said in the last podcast. And Christopher's comment is, how long have you been a motoring journalist, Ginny? I really cannot believe you said that with a straight face. Sorry, I'm completely wrong. Absolutely.
Okay, and the last comment that we've got, so Stephen Wensley. So you have said that the Renault 5 is going to look great value when it qualifies for the maximum subsidy and nothing else does. Stephen, but is it going to qualify? That's the question. Even Renault doesn't know.
At the moment,
well, it will look fantastic value, won't it?
Yeah. I would only bet on the Nissan Leaf. That's the only car I'd bet on that qualifies for the full amount. I wouldn't bet on any others right now. Right then. Should we move on? What else? Nicola's been looking at some cars, hasn't she? That hot Mokka. What can you tell us about that, Vic?
She has. So the hot Mokka. Vauxhall has sort of given its Mokka a bit of a spruce and a bit more power. It's now got 276 brake horsepower.
What?
Which it's got. I know it's got a limited slip diff to the front. Yeah, I know. It's still front wheel drive. But it's got diff, and 0 to 62 in 5.9 seconds.
In the Mokka?
In a Mokka, I know. So 20-inch wheels, lower ride height. It's got, fancy sports seats. It is, probably we haven't got confirmed pricing, but probably just under £40,000.
Wow.
I don't know, Vauxhall. Is this really what you need to be doing right now? Is this what you need? I don't think it is. I think. I mean, don't get me wrong. It actually looks quite cool. I think the Mokka is quite a good-looking car as it is, and I think the GSE looks cool. Do I think it's what people are crying out for? No, I don't. I think probably not. But it's interesting. So yeah, if you're after, a hot Vauxhall Mokka, then there's one now for you. So yeah, go for it.
Go knock yourself out. So what else have we been driving? We've talked about the IMs. Oh, the triple test. So we've got triple test that's doing quite well on YouTube. We were driving 3 cars, weren't we? We were looking at, I mean, you had a really good point that day when we were filming. You were just in a great mood and like bouncing around and like, happy Vicky. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
Vicky, I'll have what you're on. You're like, yeah, but it's great because all these affordable cars with loads of range and loads of choice.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what. So yeah, I mean, right. So check out the triple test. It's what? It's a Renault 4, the MG S5, and the Ford Puma Gen E. And I don't know whether Ginny here is suggesting that I'm generally grumpy most of the time, but on that day I was quite in a good mood because I do think it's good that, I mean, I've been, looking at electric cars and writing about electric cars for since ever. And I don't know, we had those 3 cars together and I just thought it was great because they're all really good value. You can get them, 30 grand and you're getting a really nice, really interesting, practical little car with a decent range. And I thought it felt like a bit of a turning point for me that these cars are out there and attainable. And I still think maybe there's a little way to go with monthly pricing on them and this kind of thing. But yeah, they're great. They're fun. They're spacious. They're good value. They go a decent distance to a charge and they're just easy to live with, aren't they? So I think they're all really cool. But yeah, I'm also very happy with our winner. But maybe we should keep it a secret. People should go and watch the video and find out which one won.
We had an extra tester that came along for the day to help us, didn't we?
Yes.
Do you remember our little extra tester? The one with the waggly tail.
Yes, the one with the waggly tail. Exactly. Yeah, Ziggy came along.
He did. He came
and he tried out all the boots and he gave us his detailed breakdown of which boot he preferred. And yeah, so that's the new boot test, I think, for electrifying should be Ziggy's test.
The doggy test.
Good.
Also, let us know as well. Is there anything that you're trying to make up your mind between? There are 2 cars at the moment. Like maybe you fancy a Renault 4. Maybe there's something else that you're trying to decide between. And I think what was interesting, Vic, when you and I were talking about what cars we were going to include in that test, we could have included loads, couldn't we? And I guess that's back to your point. There's so much good choice now in that under £30,000 family cars. The cars like the Jeep Avenger that we don't even talk about that much, which is a great little car.
Yeah.
So let us know if there's anything that you really fancy seeing, like a twin test, or a triple test of. You can drop us an email or pop it in the comments below here on YouTube. Right then, what should we do now? where are we going?
Barnard's bargain, I think.
Should we do a Barnard's bargain? Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, go on then. Go on then.
I'll be Barnard. Here's
you be Barnard.
I've got too much hair to be Barnard. Okay, would you rather, Vicky Parrott, would you rather for £465 a month have a Polestar 4? It's the 100 kilowatt hour battery. It's the long range single motor, or would you rather have a BYD Sea Lion 7, which has got the 83 kilowatt hour battery? There is a little caveat. The Polestar is a 4-year deal, so it is a better value. The other deal is a 3-year deal, and it is a pre-reg. So which would you rather on those 2? She's thinking. I thought that'd be cut and dry.
I would probably, despite the weird lack of a window, I'd rather have the Polestar. Is that all right? Have I surprised you? I'll be honest, there's quite a few other things. No, exactly. There's quite a few other things I would have instead of either of them, if I'm honest, at that sort of money. But I do think I would have the Polestar 4, despite the weird camera rear view thing, which does annoy me. I mean, if Polestar could maybe sneak me into a Polestar 3 instead of the 4 for that money, then I would definitely do that instead, because I really, really like the Polestar 3.
That wasn't the Barnard's bargain, though.
Oh, come on, Polestar. You can do me a Polestar 3 for under £500 a month. But yeah, I would do the Polestar.
I'm going to be controversial here. And I'm going to say I agree with you. I would have the Polestar. But actually, I think I'm one of the few people on the team that doesn't mind the lack of the rear window and the cameras in the Polestar 4. I actually quite like the Polestar 4. I think it looks quite
I don't
nice.
mind it.
I
don't hate it like a lot of people do.
No, I mean, I think Tom in particular has a real dislike for it, but I quite enjoy it. I don't mind it at all. So yeah, I would also take the Polestar. I would over the Sea Lion 7. There we go.
Yep. No.
Right.
Too.
Let's go on to more of your questions and comments. And we've had some really, really brilliant comments and questions this week, and some of them do make us laugh. So please keep them coming as always. So we're going to do a little welcome to the world of EVs, and then I have to caveat that with almost. So we're going to say a big welcome, almost welcome to Finglebat, who is a regular listener to the podcast, who said, I got to drive my first EV this week. I took out a smart #1, impressed with the drive, all the bells and whistles it had, including the head-up display, which I thought would be a gimmick, but no, it's brilliant. Alas, it was a little too small for me, so I will continue to look at other vehicles, but may loop back. My hunt for my first EV is officially on. Brilliant. And actually, what was nice is, Finglebat also wanted to say, just want to mention a great dealership, the Smart Mercedes dealership in Stevenage. They spent ages with me, no rushing, no heavy sales, understood I was in the market for an EV when the Smart wasn't quite right, even though it's an amazing car. They only showed me other EVs as an alternative. So a big shout out to the Smart Mercedes dealership in Stevenage. And a well done, because that's a good recommendation there. So yeah, well, almost welcome, Finglebat, and let us know what it is that you finally get when you do go fully electric.
Okay, so we have got another question from Agitated Minotaur. Love the name, by the way. Very good. Very good. They have asked, it's a small question, they say, but what do you think about Jeep removing the heat pump as standard on the newer Avenger models? It's now a £500 option. Is that really a big deal for UK weather climates? Are heat pumps from the Stellantis group even worth it to begin with? Now, I think this is quite an interesting question, because we've been chatting about this a lot at Electrifying recently. We've got plans for doing a bit of a test with this when the weather gets a bit colder. So I actually think Jeep have done exactly the right thing, because the Jeep needed to be cheaper for a start. It's much better now. I think it starts at just under £30,000. I was actually looking at all the details on this earlier, and I think that offering a heat pump as a fairly affordable option at £500, I think that's the best thing to do personally. Heat pumps are good technology, but you do have to do a lot of miles in winter, I think, to really get the benefit of them. And I know that, they're certainly, Ford, for instance, doesn't really think that heat pumps are worth it at all. So it's kind of, there are certain manufacturers that aren't big fans of them. And I think it really does depend on your usage as to whether it's worth having. So I definitely think that it's better for a manufacturer to have a lower list price, as long as that benefit is passed on to the customer with lower list prices. I think Jeep have done the right thing. In fact, you actually mentioned this very briefly just now, Jenny, but I think now the Jeep's cheaper, it's really actually quite a tempting little thing. And, you can,
Yeah.
it's still a pretty good car, the Avenger. So now that it's much better value, I think it's an interesting one. So I think they've done the right thing there. And to my knowledge, I don't think Stellantis heat pumps are necessarily better or worse than anybody else's. I've certainly not spent enough time. I don't think I can. I had a Jeep Avenger with a heat pump, and I ran it over winter for many, many miles, and I was seeing sort of 180-ish real world miles on the motorway in winter. So, but I haven't tried one without. So maybe I'll have to try one this winter and see what the difference is. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, you need to be within a certain temperature band, really, and it's colder weather and it's doing a lot of miles. So, but yeah, I completely agree. I think they've done a sensible thing. Right, we're going to move on to useless features on cars, which some people may think includes heat pumps. I don't know, let us know. Stephen Jordan emailed in, said, "Hi all, big fan of the podcast. I recently am back from holiday and I hired a Fiat 500e. One thing I liked about it when using the sat nav was that as you get to your destination, it asks you if you want to find a restaurant, a car park, or a charger. Thought that was very clever, especially after a long journey. Agreed. One of its less useful features was to warn brake for no apparent reason, but not actually put on the brakes. So it made me think, in all the cars you get to drive, is there one feature that should be a must for all EVs and one that should never, ever be there, like brake?" Stephen Jordan. And I would like everyone listening to get involved in this. Email us, podcast@electrifying.com. Stick it in the comments below. What are your useful and must-have features on EVs, and what useless ones should be condemned to the useless ideas box, for want of a better phrase? Oh, do you know, it's terrible because I haven't thought about this. Have you got anything that springs to mind?
I've got, well, actually, sort of along the same lines. I had an ID7 a while back, and that has it's got the reversing auto braking function that a lot of cars, not just electric, but a lot of cars do have that these days. So it senses if it thinks there's something behind you, it will automatically brake, and it will really put the emergency brakes on as well if it thinks you're going to drive into a wall. But what I found, so I live in quite a rural area. There's a lot of single track roads. Sometimes you have to pull into a lay-by. Sometimes, shockingly, there's even long grass around in the lay-by that kind of waves about behind the car. And if you have to kind of reverse up into a lay-by to let somebody past, the Volkswagen specifically with this function, and I have had it in a Renault as well. I had it in my Scenic that I spent a lot of time in. That did the same thing sometimes. And it senses the grass and then slams the emergency brakes on. So you look like a complete idiot because you're trying to get out of somebody's way, and the car will not reverse. So you have to figure out how to turn it, and you kind of keep going back and then braking again. The person, it just drove me wild. I had a number more than once in both of those cars. I had that kind of kick in, and it drove me absolutely nuts. And not once did it prevent me driving into something accidentally, but it did prevent me driving into passing laybys that I was deliberately trying to reverse into. So that was one feature that I really do hate, and I see the sanity of it, and I can see why it's kind of a good thing. I suppose what I would say in the Renault's favour, at least, there is like a one-touch button on the reversing camera screen that means you can turn it off. So that's good. Whereas in the Volkswagen, there isn't. So it's a right nightmare. So there you go. That's my feature that I hate. I hate it.
You hate it with a passion.
I hate it with a passion.
You know what I hate? I mean, I don't hate the thing I'm going to say, but I don't see the point of it, which is digital side mirrors. Like... why do we hate it with a passion?
Sorry, this is.
I mean, it's just like the thing that didn't need to be invented. Like whoever sat there and went, oh, you know what? Glancing at that side mirror. Oh, it takes too long. We need to revolutionise this and save people those split seconds, all those split seconds from their driving time. I really don't get them at all. I know you really hate them. I don't love them.
I do.
I know you really, really hate them with a passion, and I
really am an old grump, aren't I? It turns out I hadn't really noticed this until we had this conversation. I'm anti-tech old grump. That's me. No, I do hate them with a passion. You're right, yeah. But I mean, I do understand they're more aerodynamic, and I do understand that the good ones at least do give you better. It's particularly the light at night and this kind of thing, so they give you better visibility at night, supposedly. I just can't. I hate the fact that you can't just adjust your frame of view by moving your head, which obviously is a very natural thing to do when you're used to using mirrors. And I don't like the lack of depth perception, and I don't like it. I'm sorry, I don't like it, and I won't have it, and I don't want it. So that's end of. I know what the advantages are, but I don't want it.
And neither do I. Let us know what you don't want. There's one thing that I do want that I like, which is the equivalent, which is, I think was the question, what was the must-have and the useless feature? Loads of EVs are getting this now, but a kind of a button to automatically precondition your car when you come into charge. Because if you're using the inbuilt sat-nav, EVs are smart and clever, and they'll get the battery to the optimum temperature if it knows you're charging. But if you're using your Android Auto or CarPlay, then you can't do that. But lots of brands are now putting in that little button that you can go, oh, I'm going to charge in 20 minutes, and there we go. So I think that's a very nice addition.
That is a very nice feature. And I will. No, I do. I really like that feature,
you do?
And I want it to be. I do. There is something I like. There's things I like, but I wanted to add. So you need to give that loads of time. So if you've got that feature, you want to give it like half an hour to 45 minutes if you can, because that's when you get the most benefit. Because if you look at, so Ford were telling me all about this on the Gen E as well. They've deliberately not given it a manual preheat button, which does annoy me a little bit, but they have got an automatic setting. So you have to have it in the car's nav, unfortunately. And I'm with you that I would rather have a manual button, but they were saying that they found that people just didn't give it enough time, so there wasn't the benefit, because everybody thinks you can whack it on 10 minutes before you get to the charger, but it doesn't really. It needs quite a long time to charge, to warm the battery up or get it to the right temperature.
Isn't that so typical of people though? Like, just tell people. None of us are stupid. Just say to people, this is a really useful feature, but you're going to need to put it on like 45 minutes. If it's a particularly cold day, 45 minutes before. If it's just tell people, don't just take it off, because they won't be able to use it.
Here we are, Ginny, educating the world again, that you need to turn your preheating function on your electric car earlier than you might think. Give it 45 minutes if you can, because that's when you get the real benefits of it. So there you go.
That's us. That's our mission in life, Vic, to
It's our
educate the
mission.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's move on to the Range Rover. Urban Strachan, another regular to the podcast, message to say Range Rover has really done electric properly. It's kept the iconic Range Rover looks, just made it electric. It looks really promising. With this new MMA electric platform, can we now actually really get a baby G-Wagon? Baby G-Wagon. They've been talking about that for a long time, haven't they? Not a baby G-Wagon, but a Range Rover, a Land Rover equivalent of a baby G-Wagon. And there were, I've seen a clay model of one many years ago, long time ago. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard anything along those lines, but they're missing a trick if they don't, aren't they? But I think they've got quite a lot to be going on with, because they're struggling to get this one out and ready and on the road, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they need to focus on this one and get this one out before they before they start worrying about the next one. But because unfortunately, it does look like it's been slightly delayed. Because when you went and drove it out at Goodwood, they were saying deliveries end of 2025. Well, that's when the cars were going to first be on the road, right? And now they've sort
No,
of
we'd
said
see.
the
I
dates have
think it was more.
changed.
We'd see it then, and we'd probably be driving it
Okay,
towards the end of the year. Yeah, that was kind of what they were
right.
saying. Yeah.
Because the dates on the website have changed now to 2026, haven't they? So there's quite a few stories out there about the Range Rover Electric now being a bit delayed. I don't know anything more than that, other than the fact that people are now saying it will be 2026, and that there may be delays even to the new Jaguar stuff and this kind of thing. But it all seems a bit vague to me, given that it's just a slight change in the dates on the website. We will have to see, and hopefully,
We will see.
we'll be in the Range Rover Electric again soon, and we can ask them more about it. So yeah, it would certainly be good to see it on the road, and it would be lovely to see JLR really start rolling out their electric stuff, regardless. So yeah, here's hoping.
They need to get moving with it. And just on that subject, Tassie EV, another regular, said, because we were having that discussion about who would drive it first, because Tom was quite jealous that I'd had a prototype drive, because he obviously is a massive fan of all things Range Rover and Land Rover generally. And Tassie EV's decision is that because both Tom and Ginny want to do, you should just send Nick instead to do it. That way you can both be miserable while Nicola does the review, or indeed with Vicky, you could, we could both lose the toss of the coin and you could go. But there you go.
I would love
It'll be an
to,
interesting one.
exactly.
We will all want to drive that when we finally can drive it. Right. What else? Do you want to do the next one?
Okay. Frunks. Love a frunk. So this is from Nicholas Riley 8977. So, bit of an annoyance, the number of car reviewers who say the lack of a frunk is a problem. For those of you who do have a frunk or with a frunk, do you use it regularly? As in at least once a week. If I had one, I'm guessing I'd never use it.
It was great, because that was a YouTube comment, and we had loads of replies to it, all saying pretty much yes. So Gruff Silly Goat said, in my EV6, the fruit is the place to keep the cables. I never use either out the way. Oh, the fruit is the place I keep the cables, not to take up space in the boot, which is very useful. Roger Finch said, yes, I put my rucksack in there when I'm leaving car parks, nice and out of sight, in my Tesla Model Y. Bought it before Elon went nuts. And then Mev202 said, I use mine every day. So... Yeah,
I think it's quite useful, as long as it's big enough that you don't have to kind of ninja fold your cables to get it in there every time, and it's sort of spacious enough that you can just chuck them in there. I do find them really good for cables, because it just means that you leave the boot completely free for everything else, don't you? I do find frunks, or fruits if you wish, I do find them quite useful personally. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So you may find, who is that? Nicholas Riley 8977. That if you had a frunk, you might use it more than you think. Shall we end with Malcolm Brownie, who keeps messaging in about my height?
Yes.
He's very obsessed with my height. He suggested an intro line. Welcome to Electrifying, where Tom is 5'8" and I'm definitely not 5'4".
I think it should be the intro line to everything. Yeah.
Should it be? I think I am 5'4", but apparently I'm not. I don't know. I've never met Malcolm, but Malcolm does comment this quite regularly. He seems to be very concerned that I've been lying to the world about my height.
Oh,
So maybe I've
how tall does he
shrunk.
think you are? Does he
I don't
he
know.
thinks that
Oh,
you're under
much small.
5'4" then?
He thinks I'm
Well,
under 5'4". He does.
maybe
He
next time,
does.
Jenny. I mean, you know that I like a tape measure, so maybe next time
Oh,
that
we
we're
do.
together, I'll get the tape measure. You can watch the triple test again if you want to see that, and you can we can yeah, get the tape measure out and measure you, and we'll let Malcolm know in exact dimensions, centimeters or feet and inches. I'm easy, and we'll let him know exactly how tall you are. I'm 5'7", by the way, which
Okay.
apparently is the average height for a European woman. So there you go.
Okay. I thought the
I'm
average
very
height
average.
of a woman in the UK was 5'3".
Is
We're
it?
really
Maybe
yeah,
I'm
but I
wrong
don't know. It
then.
might be wrong. We're really digressing. But when Malcolm keeps saying this, that I'm lying about my height, I got really panicky, thinking, "Oh God, I'm getting really old and I'm shrinking." Because you shrink when you get older, don't you? So maybe I've
Hmm.
shrunk.
Well,
And on
I
that
think you look
note,
5'4". Yeah, definitely 5'4".
well, next time we're measuring door apertures, Vicky will just
Yeah,
get the tape measure out and just
yeah.
double check
We'll
and
measure the
see if
presenters as well.
As always,
Excellent.
thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Kilowatt Half Hour. If you aren't already, please do like and subscribe and leave us a comment. If you're listening on your podcast platform, it really helps if you can do that on there as well. And I think all that remains for us to say is until next time, goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.